Hello and welcome back to the latest update of my Space Wolves Crusade videos. It's only a small update today. I only got a couple of games in since the last video, but there's been a few models I managed to get painted now and added to my order of battle. So I thought, it's been a little while, I'll do a bit of an update on how it goes, or how it's been going. So I've had 2 more games, so we're up to 6 games total with the Space Wolves now, with some mixed results I'll go through in just a second. But look, I'm still quite enjoying this force. It's not really my regular playstyle. In fact, in one of the games recently, one of my friends commented that they're surprised to see me playing an army that's so aggressive and playing it so aggressively, given that I tend to have more gunline type armies, or not really be very into close combat. But interesting enough, with the Space Wolves, I've had so many battles so far where I've only really had pistol-based ranged, which has had its own problems as well. But no, it's been fun to try out some different things, not only in terms of painting and collecting, but in terms of playing a different faction as well. So let me talk you through the most recent 2 games. So the 5th game for the Space Wolves was back against Mike's Custodians army. And if you recall back to the first couple of battles we had, the actual first battle of the Space Wolves was against this Custodians army, and it was before the Custodians Codex had come out for 9th edition. And now that the 9th edition Codex is out, Mike wanted to try the battle again, and with a force which was almost identical to what he played in that very first game. So that was an Alaric Shield Captain, not quite as redonkulous as it was previously, but in this case still with superior creation, now with the Praetorian Plate, which is an awesome relic which allows you to, once per game, heroically intervene basically anywhere on the board, so teleport yourself to where a combat is taking place. He's got the Castellan Axe, the regular Ballistic Grenade Launcher, so not the Obliteratum like he had in the first game. But yeah, he's got the Praetorian Plate instead, and then also a Misericordia. Then a squad of 5 Custodian Guards with Sentinel Blades and Presidium Shields. In this case, Mike, who plays these, had been reading a lot of people putting a lot of shade on the Blades and Shield combination, saying it's got to be axes or spears, but he quite likes the swords and shields, and I got to say, he's done them to some justice as well. They've done very well so far in the games we've played. And then finally 3 Custodian Wardens with axes and Misericordias. So in this particular game, I took the initiative and got my Thunderwolf Cavalry on a first turn charge into his Custodian Guards. I actually managed to kill one on the way in. Well, sorry, one was killed by the Psychers, by the Rune Priest Psychic powers, and the other 4 got charged by the Thunderwolf Cavalry. But Mike popped the Arcane Genetic Alchemy, which means they can only be wounded on 4s or above. And I think the other strategy which allows you to stop your opponent from making any rerolls. So that did neuter the charge of the Thunderwolf somewhat, so they only killed 1 more guard on the way in, and then one of their number was killed in response. I also had the Assault Intercessors on the board, along with the Wolven. I moved them around. They didn't really get anything off in turn 1. There was more of a cautious approach to those trying to encircle Mike's units. But the main thing that having the first turn, again, that first turn charge off did, was it basically locked most of Mike's forces into the back corner of the board, which meant that I had a lot more objective control than he did. And from the very first turn, he was sort of trying to fight his way out of that corner. So in Mike's turn, he managed to kill the Thunderwolves. He's got the Custodes shield host, which allows them to always fight first, which is hugely powerful, especially when you're playing as a melee army against a melee army when his ones all fight first. All I really get is 1 charge up before his units get to start fighting as well, and we had to start alternating as normal. But in the second turn, I did manage to get the Wolven and the Assault Intercessors into a combination of his Wardens and his Alaric Shield Captain. And that fight actually went pretty well, so I was able to take out most of those forces there, but at the same time I'd left my Rune Priest too far back to be effective in melee combat, or not melee combat, to be effective in the battle with its psychic powers, and I've just had this absolute terrible luck with getting his relic, the Storm's Eye, to go off, where basically if he manages to pull off a Space Wolf psychic power, then every unit within 12 inches of him takes a mortal wound on a 4+. But every time I got within 12 inches in several games, and I just kept failing to get off Living Lightning or any of the Instincts Awoken. No problem with Smite. He can get some Smites out, but just couldn't seem to get off any of his Space Wolf powers while he was in the appropriate range. And by sort of running across the board late, it meant that the Custodian Guards that had taken out the Thunderwolves could sort of get straight to him and wipe him out in melee combat. So in the end, fighting against Might Forces, I did take out his Wardens and his Shield Captain, but the Custodian Guard wiped out the rest of my units. But the good news was, even though I got tabled in the 5th turn, because I'd had such board control at the start of the game, I won on points. There was just no way that Mike could catch up with the points. So it does prove that, you know, even when you're tabled in 9th edition, you can still win the game if you're smart tactically early on. So that was another victory for a hard-fought victory for the Space Wolves, but a victory nonetheless. Then on the same day, I played another game then against my friend Brian with his Black Templars. He brought a really odd battle to the table with 25 power level. So he bought a Primaries Captain with standard loadout, and then he bought a single 20-man Crusader squad for 20 power level. So that was 25 between 2 units. That was it. In this particular mission, there was a objective marker, let's call it, on the right side of the board and one on the left side of the board. And you got points for holding the objectives, and you got points for doing an action at the objectives, which you could only do when there was no enemy units nearby. So I took my Blood Claws, my Captain, Dreadnought, and Bikes. And Brian put all of his forces over by one of the objectives. We'll call it the right one, as that's how it was oriented to me at the time. And I once again got the first turn. And thanks to the captain's ability starting off at the start of the game inactive, thanks to Warrior or Hero of Renown, he gets his Warlord trait, special trait, already activated. It means he has an aura of charging after advancing. So the Dreadnought, the Bikes, and the Captain all advanced to right in front of Brian's troops. Actually, sorry, no, he did get the first one. He moved them first, but they're not in range of doing it. That's right. Then I managed to countercharge him in my turn. So yeah, I was into them before they could do anything about it. And on the other side of the board, I had my Blood Claws go over to the other objective. And this became this massive slog trying to burn through these 20 men. And Brian, who's usually not that used to using things like stratagems, was starting to get more of a hang for his army. Kept using one, which meant that every time I did melee damage, there was a risk I'd take mortal wounds back. I was sure that the Dreadnought and the Captain and the Bikes would just churn through those 20 guys, but it didn't happen that way. In fact, the Captain actually charged his Primaries Captain, and I was thinking, here I've got a Smash Captain with a Thunderhammer. He's got a standard Primaries Captain with a Power Sword. This is an easy walkover, and he just got amazingly lucky with 4+ saves. Like, I just could not seem to burn through his wounds. Which is unfortunate, because for my agenda, I'd taken the boast, where with your captain you basically boast a number of things, and for each thing, if you get them all off during the game, you get 1 XP per thing you boasted, but if you miss any, you get none. So I think I had to kill to be the first unit into combat, which it was, to kill a character and kill the Warlord with 2 of them. So I'm like, okay, if I can just kill the captain, that solves both of those. And to be in his deployment zone at the end of the game. I thought that's an easy 4 points to get there if I do those things. But yeah, I just couldn't bring him down. And in the end, his captain actually ended up killing my captain with his power sword. And I did use it only in death as to the end. So with his dying throws, the captain still killed his Primaries Captain, but he died anyway. So he wasn't in his objective or his deployment zone at the end of the game. So therefore, no points for that boast. I lost out in the XP there, but that was my own fault for going too far. Likewise, the Dreadnought just struggled to kill everybody fast enough, and they were putting significant damage on it. So eventually, there were like 2 Crusaders left. So his captain got killed, all the Crusaders got killed, but they still held an objective. Meanwhile, on the other side of the board, my Blood Claws just sat there for the whole game, racking up points, but not doing anything, not being involved in the fight. So that was 6 power level basically out of the battle. And we got to the last turn, and I basically worked out that, or the second to last turn, I could get the Blood Claws to leave the objective to move towards his Crusaders, but they would have a turn where they would not be in range because they've only got bolt pistols. and then in the next turn he would score not only the points for holding objective, but the points for holding more than me, because I wouldn't be on one at the time, which would mean that even if I could get to him and kill him, I would still lose on points. So I could either stay on the objective and get a draw, or I could leave the objective and get a loss, basically. So, you know, we pretty much just shook hands over the last turn, saying like neither of our forces are going to leave the objective. So it was a draw, which was actually Brian's first non-loss since we've been playing 9th edition and in several games. So, which I know that sounds horrible, but it is the case. And it's not because he's a bad player. It's because he just doesn't have a lot of models to choose from, because he hasn't been collecting 40k recently, and he has a lot of older models. I mean, I've bought him a couple of things, you know, and we've got him stuff for his birthday as well that he's working on. But yeah, just doesn't have a big selection, and it doesn't matter because he loves playing the game, and whether he wins or loses, he always had a great time, which is good. But yeah, this was his first non-loss in 9th Ed, so good on him for playing out to the draw. I honestly thought I was going to cakewalk it. I thought I was going to lose to Mike, and I won. And I thought I was going to smash Brian, and I drew. So, a day of surprises. So let's have a look at how the unit's looking right now. So, my captain, he obviously had the extra battle, and he got the Primaries captain kill there. And I also marked him for greatness in Game 6 as well. So, he's doing quite well. He's still sitting, he's only a few XP off going up to the next rank. I think it's at 16 you got to the next rank. Then, the Rune Priest, I marked him for greatness in Game 5 just to give him enough XP to get to Blooded. And I gave him the Halo Indominus because, yeah, it's really tough with Psychers not having invulnerable saves for Marine Army. So, giving him that 4+ invul from that Halo Indominus and also the 4+ with non-mortal wounds was definitely a benefit. So, even though he hasn't killed anything since the Blood Slaughterer in an early game against Steve, it was still good to get up to an extra level. The Blood Claws obviously had the extra battle where they stood there and did nothing, so at least they survived. But that was an interesting one. That was a wasted 6 power for that game. The Assault Intercessors obviously played in the game against the Custodians. They didn't get any kills there, but they did really hold up Mike's units. So I still gave them mark for grants for that, which actually got them to Blooded rank, and they've also gained, like my other units, Blazeman's Honours, so they now get a weapon skill of 2+, which is great with Space Wolves. It means that even with the Thunderhammer, they're still hitting on 2+ on the charge, thanks to the Space Wolf trait. I didn't play with the Long Fangs at all. They've only really had the couple of games, and they've been quite underwhelming so far, but maybe if I remember all their rules, like I've still never remembered the Signum. I've still never remembered the Ammunition Cherub. I had a battle where I completely forgot that the Sergeant had a Power Fist. So if I do use them again, hopefully I actually remember their rules this time. I mean, the Bikes played the game where they charged into the Crusaders. They didn't do particularly well. I think they killed a couple of Crusaders, but the mortal wounds back at them is what actually took them out. Plus, all the chainswords coming back their way. They're still only toughness 5, so you know it was a slog, but they were there. They didn't do a whole lot though. Now the Wolfen, they actually did pretty well in this battle because they actually managed to be the ones that took out both the Wardens and the Shield Captains, getting their first actual 2 kills, and that's also put them up to the next rank of Battle Hardened. So I gave them Veteran Warriors, so they now reroll 1s to hit even when they're outside of any auras, which is handy. Well, they're not core anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered with the captain. But now, yeah, 2+ weapon skill with Thunderhammers 2+ on the charge, and really rolling 1s to hit. They're pretty brutal now. Okay, so the Dreadnought got a run obviously in the game against the Black Templars. Didn't kill anything. Did a lot of damage. Like it killed a whole bunch of Crusaders, just didn't get any actual unit kills. So look, it was good while it was there. I think that it already had the elite crew from last time. I think it's got the 1 XP for the Battle Fort this time. But yeah, look, it's still a great unit, but it just struggled to get enough damage to really make a difference in that last battle against Brian. And of course, we've now had 1 battle with the Thunderwolf Cavalry. Having been involved in holding up the Wardens, which once again they were instrumental in preventing Mike from getting out to start claiming objectives, and that battle was basically won for me in the first round because just Mike could not keep up with the points once I locked him down into the back corner of the game. So they didn't do a lot of damage. They killed one Custodian Guardian only, single model, but their presence gave me the result that I wanted. So they're all the current units. So because of that now, I've had a few requisition points to spend. I increased my supply limit, and I decided to add some more models to the order of battle. So let me introduce you first off to Balder Frostbane, a Space Wolf Primaries Lieutenant. This is actually a model that I got years ago during in the Tooth and I think it's called Tooth and Claw or something. The Space Wolves versus Gene Stealer Cults battle box. And at that point in time, I had zero interest in Space Wolves, and I just used all the bits and pieces from that battle box to make up other Marines, I think, stuff for my Imperial Fists. But I was left over with the Space Wolf Lieutenant, so I ended up actually, at the time I was starting off a Deathwatch army, so I thought, what I'm going to do? I'm going to actually use this model to convert into a Space Wolf Primaries Lieutenant for my Deathwatch army, which is pretty easy to do. I changed the arms, I gave it the Deathwatch shoulder pad, but as for the cloth around the waist, the sword and everything, that was all the same, and the wolf pelt on the back. But yeah, that was a nice conversion. But then when I decided to actually do this one, I'd previously bought the Space Wolves Combat Patrol, which this model comes in now as well. So he was built up there. I'd never actually used this model as a Space Wolf before. I'd never used a Special Issue Bolt Carbine or Mastercrafted Power Axe, which are pretty much unique to this Lieutenant Primaris model. So now that I've got him, I'll see how he goes in battle. I mean, Lieutenants are great at 4PL, and they give you that reroll to wound. Mathematically, if it's rerolling ones to hit or to wound, it gives you the same mathematical result, whether you do it with the hit or the wound. It's different if you're rerolling all hits or wounds. Normally then you would preference whichever one you have the lowest chance with is the one you want to have your rerolls on, from a mathematical point of view. But with this guy, yeah, he's just like a captain in terms of giving out that buff. But I also gave him Wolfkin. So Wolfkin is the Warlord trait, which means that he always counts as having charge for the purposes of Shock Assault, and he gets actually an extra D3 attacks, not just one. And if he ever kills a unit in melee combat, then I can then use Hero of Renown to give him a permanent aura of allowing other people to always count as having charge for the purposes of Shock Assault. They don't get the extra attacks, but they do get that benefit of always having charged, which means for Space Wolves +1 to hit. And I also gave him the Armour of Russ, because I wanted to give him, once again, an invulnerable save, a decent save as well. So, yeah, this guy, I will use him in a future battle for sure. I like the model. He's only my second Primaris unit to add to the order of battle after the Primaris Assault Intercessors. But yeah, next up, I did a unit of Wolfguard Terminators. So in this case, I picked up the Wolfguard Terminator box, but it doesn't actually come with a Cyclone missile launcher, and I did want one of those. There's been because you can do a couple of different things with these. You can use these guys as an extra model that goes into a regular Wolfguard or a regular any sort of Space Wolf pack. Basically, can have a Wolfguard Terminator in the pack. It creates the issues with your armor saves and your movement, but the option is there. And someone had said to me previously, "Hey, you should do a Terminator with Cyclone Missile Launcher and put that in with your Devastators, because that then sort of just adds to the firepower of the Devastators." But I do like Cyclone Missile Launchers anyway, but it doesn't come right in the box. So I thought I had some spares. I went through my bits box. What I did have was a whole bunch of spare Cyclone Missile Launchers from the Dark Angels Terminator box sets, but because they all have the Dark Angel wings on the top. So I actually ended up going out and buying an extra box of regular Terminators just to claim the Cyclone Missile Launcher from. So I'm sure I'll use those Terminators for something else later on. But here we've got 4 Wolfguard Terminators with Thunderhammers and Storm Shields. And then 1 with the Cyclone Missile Launcher, a Chain Fist, and a regular Storm Bolter. So, yeah, I mean, Terminators I haven't really used a lot in either 8th or 9th. I suppose the facility of Deep Strike gives them some advantage, but they are very slow. They only got the 5-inch move. Yeah, look, I'll see how they go. They're costly at 9 power level, but hopefully they can do well in a future game. And then finally, I also added in Pack Ghosttooth, which is a group of 5 Hounds of Mordecai. Yeah, these guys are just a unique Space Wolf unit I wanted to do. I like the fact that their colour scheme is different, so rather than doing the Rust Grey base, they had a Dark Reaper base that was then washed with non-oil, highlighted with Thunderhawk Blue, and then the shoulder pads and knee pads are the same as standard Space Wolf colouring. So these guys, if you don't know, are a specialty anti-psyker unit. Don't know how much play they'll get in my current group, given we've got someone using Custodians with no Psychers, somebody using World Eaters, somebody using Black Templars. Yes, not a lot of Psychers in any of those. I suppose when I play against my son, he has a Librarian Dreadnought. And the World Eaters player does sometimes play Thousand Suns, and the Custodians player does sometimes play Tyranids. So I'm sure there will be chances, but I think that those players are more focused on their non-Psyker armies at the moment. So we'll wait and see how rapidly these Hounds of Mordecai get to see battle. But I just wanted to make sure that I was doing one of every single, what would you call it, every single wolf-specific unit, or Space Wolf-specific unit. So that's why I did these guys up. Look, if there's no Psychers to mess with, they're basically just a mediocre unit in the form of Reavers, which are not Reavers, they are Primaris Reavers. They're not a great unit anyway right now, and they actually lose some of the abilities of the Reavers to get their psychic powers, or anti-psychic powers. But we'll see. I enjoy painting the models, and it'll be in my collection now. So, this is how my order battle looks so far. Highest kills still sits with Brother Arnkel, the Dreadnought, at 6. And the highest XP is with the Wolfen. Obviously, I've added in the 3 new models at the bottom there, but they've got no games played so far. Not a lot of my models have survived many games. For all the battles I've played so far, all 6 battles, I've only actually had 4 times had models survived. So, yeah, a bit of work to go with the Space Wolves on their winning ability and their survivability, but it's still a fun project to be working on. So what's next? I'm actually probably getting close to the end of this Space Wolf series, for a couple of reasons. As I said, Space Wolves aren't really, my thing. I just did this as a fun project. I get mocked by my friends for playing Space Wolves right now. But there's still a few more things I want to do. First off, I had a look at all the stuff I've done so far. I'm only 1 troops unit away from being able to field a battalion. So I thought I should add in 1 more troops unit, and because of the issues I had with the Blood Claws being out of range in the game against Brian, I thought I might actually take a regular squad of Intercessors with bolt rifles, because if they were in the same circumstances, they could have actually shot at Brian's Crusaders from the distance they were at and on the objective, and not left the objective. So that will give you some more versatility in games where it's all about holding objectives and engaging at range, other than all my guys currently, which are mostly pistol users. I want to do Primaries Aggressors because I just like the models. I like their models, I like their abilities. I think they look good. Paint up as Space Wolves with Flamers. Well, Flamestorm Gauntlets, that's what I want to do. I've got a Stormwolf model to build, although I'm missing the canopy, but I should be able to find a spare canopy somewhere else. And then also, I was shown a cool technique with a Land Raider, where you get enough sort of decorative bits with a Stormwolf that you can actually decorate up a Land Raider to look quite Space Wolfy as well. So I thought, 1 more option to transport the Wolfen around, because they can go in a Land Raider. So I'll build up either a Land Raider Crusader or a Land Raider Red Team Rider. I don't think a standard Land Raider really fits with what I'm going for with this army. But yeah, they're the sort of models I want to work on next, depending on how I go in terms of getting requisition points from battles to actually unlock the points required. We'll see which I do first, but they're the sort of models that I'm going for. So there's probably 1 or maybe 2 more potential videos here I'll go through as I get through those models and bring them in and talk about more battles. And then it's probably going to be the next project, which, although I mentioned Sisters before, at the time of recording this, the Eldar or Eldari Codex has just gone on pre-order. So I would really like to do a new Eldari army, so I'll probably put my attention onto that next once I finish with the Space Wolves, and may do a video series around that too, about how I sort of decide to collect and paint and how they play as well. But hopefully you're still enjoying the Space Wolf part. There's still, more to go. And I'll get some more models painted up and on the table and let you know how they go. So thank you once again for watching, and I will see you next time.